All right, Richie, welcome to the Elevate podcast, formerly known as the Muscle Mind. It was a different studio. What do you think of this new studio?
Mate, Schmick, thanks for having us back on, Mets. And yeah, mate, it's all looking very glamorous.
Well, mate, obviously your past life, UFC, was it featherweight?
Flyweight, yeah,
Flyweight,
57 kilos, yeah. Still
flyweight, and you're on the
Smashers, the Ultimate Fighter, yeah.
That's
I was
right.
on that as a lightweight,
Yeah.
So I was only ever fought lightweight in that show, because of the opportunity. But yeah, most of my fights were at bantamweight, a few at featherweight, and then my UFC fights were way down at flyweight. Yeah, so I bounced around a little bit to stay active and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the start. Bra Boys.
Yep.
All right. I grew up in East Lakes and known the Bra Boys for forever.
Yep.
Colourful area.
Yep.
A lot
Much
of
like East Lakes.
interesting. Yeah, fucking hell. No different days. Commission flats.
Yeah.
Low socio-economic families. But, for me, and I'm sure it was for you, we had so much fun, right?
Absolutely.
Like you have so much fun. What was it like? The Bra Boys. They always had, a big name. Obviously, you had the Abbott brothers.
Yep.
The surfing was huge. Fighting was huge. I read in one place where, if you had a dispute, you had fun. You had fun having a fight, fighting it out.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Yeah, it was wild, mate. It was like, especially now, growing up there, I turned 40 now, throughout my early teens, from my late teens, early 20s, I was doing nippers down there as a kid, through 5, 6, 7. Yeah, place just like everywhere. It's changed a lot. Gentrification has spread out through all over Sydney now. But growing up down there, it was, mate, you could get up to whatever you want to do, whatever you wanted. There's very little consequences to whatever, whatever you did get up to. But I grew up down with like a bunch of my best mates. I'm still best mates there with today. And like I said, I was growing up rubbing shoulders with my heroes, the Abbott brothers, Wayne Cleveland, Mark Matthews, Howie, Rito, all these guys who just were madmen in the ocean when the waves got big. They were taking me under their wing, and also madmen who out of the water too, who I look up to, The pub down back in the day was absolute, like something out of the Wild
That's
West.
the pub at River, right?
Yeah, before they did it up, and we had the rifle range at the southern end, so you're running around having egg balls or going through the army tunnels. It was just wild but fun, Like the ocean was the best playground, I think a kid can ever have, and that's what I am so grateful to have been given in this whole area, the eastern suburbs. We're so lucky and fortunate to grow up in this environment, and I was just, like I said, down there at every opportunity. I grew up, my family home was just out at Little Bay, which is amazing, surrounded by golf courses and beaches. But then when my parents split, my dad got a little unit right on Herald Street there at the beach. So, I had no excuse not to be down there 24/7.
So, I remember previously we were talking about some of those big waves that you'd ride.
Yeah.
The fear that goes into that process. What's it like when you're, even like the first time you get on the surfboard? How old are you?
How old was I?
How old was I? How old?
My uncle, he's from Manchester, England, but he moved over here as my mum did as well. And he just loved surfing, so he was just a pommy bloke at Avalon. Uncle Michael, he was pushing me in the waves for as far back as I can remember. On a fiberglass board. I always loved the bodyboard. Like I said, I do nippers, and I loved catching waves and the idea of surfing. But I first was getting pushed into waves on a stand-up board up at Avalon when I was probably like 4 or 5, getting up, just getting the feeling of, the water rushing below your feet and moving and balance. And, mate, I was hooked. Like, it was the most amazing experience I'd ever had. And that's all I ever wanted to do growing up. Still to this day, like, I've ventured off and done other things, but being in the ocean and surfing or diving is just still my favourite place. And, from that moment of standing up on that, first wave, I was just hooked. And then in the environment I grew up in, it was a pretty testosterone charged environment, and I was drawn to the boys who charged when the waves got big, and that's what I wanted to do as well. And like I said, they took me under their wing and gave me that opportunity, and it was wild. Plenty of adventures and plenty of you learn a lot about yourself in those moments when you're shitting yourself and you're out in the ocean and you got no one to lean on, or there's no help. Some places are pretty remote. But those trips and the camaraderie with your mates and pushing each other and it was wild. And
What are those remote places? Obviously, you're going up against huge waves, and you guys were chasing the biggest ones, right?
yeah.
What was the biggest ones and the most remote places where you thought, fuck me, Dad, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, probably the most remote. And if shit was to go pear shaped, you're probably the most trouble. Was a wave called Cyclops, which is off a little place called Esperance, which is at the bottom of Western Australia, sort of in the Great Bight, loaded with sharks, big great whites, and you're out in the middle of nowhere. There's just these little rocky islands with not a blade of grass on them. There's nothing on them, but big barnacles and maybe a couple of seals. And the wave breaks in ankle deep water and
deep water.
Yeah, it's and it should be photo just as an empty wave, But because it looks so amazing and so photogenic, obviously we try to surf it as well and try to capture those images. But it's not. I've told myself that it's not really a surfable wave. I'm never going to go back there to try and surf it. It's not a fun wave. The chance of actually succeeding, getting a good wave out there is so slim, and the chances of things going really bad are pretty high. But it's so photogenic, and it's one of those waves which Australia's pretty famous for now. It's called slab surfing, where waves get almost thicker than they are high. Just the way our coastline is made up, the way that the cliffs drop off into the water, then sometimes just under the water that cliff drops off again, and that's what that big swell line just surges up over and makes those incredible waves. And Cyclops is one of those. And yeah, like I said, it's just really hard wave to ride. If you fall, you're definitely getting bounced across rocks, and if things go wrong, it's like you got to get the boat or the jet ski out of there, then get that to shore, then you've got to drive along the beach, go through dirt tracks, get out of there, and helps a long way away, mate. So
you got to be pretty crazy. You can't be. It's not for the normal surfer or the beach goer.
It's not like for your average punters who's just looking for a little surf trip.
Yeah.
That's not the places they go and try and seek out. But like I said, surrounded by the group of surfers that I grew up with, Evan Fawkes, Rooster Adams, Mark Matthews, the Ablin brothers, we were just chasing and competing with each other, and the surf media jumped on it. This idea of this slab surfing, they couldn't get enough of it. So every time we did a trip, somebody would on the cover of magazines. It would be on DVDs, splashed around not only the Australian surf media, but it'd be America, all through Hawaii, these new waves that we're surfing. Then you get Hawaiians come over, try their luck on in our style of big wave. So it was just it was a real sensation around that time. It was all kicking off, and I was at that age. I was in the thick of it with some of my best mates. It was really fun, but they weren't waves that necessarily always fun, like a fun surf trip. You go to Indonesia and get some beautiful idyllic waves if you're after something like that. But the adventure and chasing things that were new, guys hadn't surfed them before, or there was a whisper of a wave around that headland that maybe breaks in these conditions. That was really cool to be a part of too, new discoveries. And Tasmania, you got Shipsterns Bluff, and then all the way through Western Australia, South Australia. Yeah, pretty much the bottom half of Oz is just littered with these kind of waves.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of other scary things down there as well, which always made a little bit uneasy sitting in the water. Yeah.
Well, what was the biggest wave? What was the biggest wave that you've ever surfed?
Mate, actually, you know what? In terms of height, the biggest waves I might have been out in was last year off Wedding Cake. Was one of the biggest walls I've ever seen hit the East Coast.
You know what I was seeing the other day? Wedding Cake just here.
Yeah, we're right here at Coogee.
I was there the other day, and there was massive waves breaking out there.
Yeah.
So did you just go all the way out there?
Yeah, we'd
because I didn't see any surfers. Because I was looking at those waves, I go, where are the surfers? I seen it the other day.
Yeah. Well, mate, yeah. I think there's two, not last Saturday before we had a big Sunday sale. That would have been the day. Yeah.
So back then, you guys from River would have been out there.
Well, I was down at Cronulla that day surfing a wave called Voodoo, just because the winds and the conditions were a bit better. But it was mid last year. We just had these huge southerly swell, and that was some of the biggest waves I've ever paddled. And I think it was between 20 to 30 foot waves.
Wow.
Now the face might be between 50 and 60 foot height. But again, you go to Tasmania and you get huge waves, but also really thick too. There's just the wave just has no back to it. It's like the whole ocean is just folding over, over the ledge. And again, then you go overseas and you got Hawaii and Fiji. You got some huge waves as well, but it's really hard to say which is the biggest, most dangerous because they come in so many different shapes and forms.
Yeah.
But in terms of height, and I got flogged out that day, and I got the heart rate. I was quickly reminded Yeah, who's boss out there? That little session last year at off Wedding Cake Island was huge. Yeah.
So you got dumped a few times. Were you under the water a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've surfed it there a few times, and I've got this padded vest now. Like, you know, they're super popular in big waves. You've got ones where you can pull a cord and like a big balloon blows up off your back, and you shoot to the surface. You know, like safety precautions now.
Okay.
They weren't around when we were chasing these slabs, you know, like 10, 15 years ago, but now they're very common. And I've got this vest on, which kind of gives you a little bit of a false sense of security in a way.
Yeah.
And I surfed out there a few times with this vest on and fallen, and the waves were really big, but I felt, you know, not a bad wipeout, but I felt really buoyant. So as soon as like the turbulence stopped, I felt like I was going to the surface pretty quick, and keeps you from panicking, so you stay relaxed. But on this day last year, on that really big swell, I fell on a couple of big ones, and I felt like I was in a pair of board shorts. I felt like I had no buoyancy vest on whatsoever. I was just getting rolled. My leash was like stretched to its capacity, so I knew I was down super deep. And when I was hoping to get back to the surface, it'll tumble me again and push me deeper. And just having those moments, like, I've got to get to the surface before the next wave hits. You know, I don't want to get a 2-wave hold down because I'm already kind of at my max breath hold. You know, I don't think I can hold much.
What is your max breath hold?
Oh man, in a pool in a safe environment, maybe with a bit of breathing techniques before, and I can get like over 3 minutes easy. You know, even close to 4 minutes. But in that scenario where your heart rate's through the roof and you're paddling into a wave, so you're sort of like, you know, you're pushing yourself physically, and then you're getting tumbled underwater, and then you start to think, fuck, is this going to let me up? And then the panic starts to creep in. You made
What's that,
like
about 2
20,
minutes?
30 seconds is like, fuck, it feels like an eternity, you know?
Wow.
And so it was a nice reminder. Like I had built up a bit of confidence out there, and got a bit cocky, you know, and that was a day where kept me honest, you know, flogged me. And
so you're still chasing those big waves then?
still chasing, yeah. I mean, not to the extent where, you know, I'm just packing the board bag at a drop of a hat and darting off to Fiji or Hawaii or Tahiti. But locally, like, I'm always like checking the forecast and can see exactly like last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago when you saw the waves out here. I saw there's going to be like a little window where the waves going to be big, the winds could be favourable for a few waves, and I try to make sure I can get out there, clear my schedule as best I can, and because I love getting that heart rate up and being out there, and I've changed my approach to it as I've gotten older, and I've had injuries, and I try to assess risk differently now, and now you got more responsibilities too, but just that feeling of being out there and, you know, just seeing empty waves roll through and just hooting and like looking at some bloke you don't know, just going, fuck, wow, is that, you know, just in awe at Mother Nature, you know. That's a pretty cool thing. And then, you know, if you get a couple good ones as a bonus as well. But yeah, I just, that little sense of adventure and getting the heart rate up is something that I still really love to try and do. Yeah.
Fiji, we were just in Fiji, and we went to Cloud 9.
Yep, beautiful.
And then I could see these waves breaking in a massive line.
Yeah.
And I mean, what the fuck's that? And then I realised that's where they surf.
Yeah. So you got a bit of swell there too? So you got to see the wave break?
I got to see it because I was freaking out. I go, what's that line? It's so long.
Yeah.
Is that where you guys surf?
Yeah, that just breaks it along the edge of that reef there. Yeah. So
it's just in the middle of the ocean.
One of the world's best waves. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's funny how it's just like, it's just out there. Like, you got to go out there. Where do you, like, what do you do out there? Like, do you have to get a jet ski?
Yeah,
a boat.
And depending on the size of most places there, you know, accommodate for surfers. So the place you stay, or they can organise a boat.
Yeah.
So you pay the boat driver for the day or whatnot, and you get taken out to the wave, and they'll just sit there in the channel watching you surf, and you can take food out there and whatnot. So you spend the day out there surfing, and they you can't really paddle out to waves like that. There are some places where you can paddle from shore, like different waves, which are fun. But cloud break in particular, you got to get the boat out. And then as it gets bigger, it starts to do different things, and that's when guys either start taking really big boards out or start trying to get the jet skis and tow into, you know, once it gets too big to paddle, you know. And but again, like, you got those tropical sort of reef passes that those produce those kind of beautiful, kind of mechanical, picturesque waves, where our coastline just offers up totally different waves again. And that's what's so unique about surfing too, you know. Every country offers something different, and you get different storm cells or, you know, swells that hit from different angles coming from different parts of the globe that produce different size swells, different energy. It's
but how do you pick? Look, obviously it's hard to pick what those days are going to be like, right?
Yeah.
Or do you kind of see the weather forecasts and patterns and you know where it's going to happen?
Yeah, like the forecasting these days is pretty good. You can pretty much narrow it down to a day or two where the wind's going to line up well, the swell directions, you know, coming from the right direction. The height of the swell is what you want for this certain wave, because every wave will work in different conditions. So when you see all those elements line up, the size, the direction, the tide, the wind direction, all that kind of stuff, and then you'll see, okay, well maybe on this day we'll have a window to surf it. So you can be pretty accurate with with your sort of attempt to go surf a wave on, like, you might be looking at a 4-hour window and you fly across halfway across the world to hit that 4-hour window, and you can do that with a relatively good chance these days with forecasting. Whereas back in the day, you'd just sort of either just plan a trip and wing it, hopefully you get swell, or do your best just checking the old synoptic charts. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that looks like a storm down there. That should be pushing swell that way. So we'll go up here and but these days it's pretty accurate. So there's not many like really good swells or forecasts that don't go surfed because you've got so many guys, watching it. There's so many eyes on it and knowing what break will be really good in those conditions. So it's good. It's big wave surfing again, like so many sports, has evolved, and with the introduction of these like flotation vests now, guys are pushing it really hard by just paddling. Maybe 10 years ago, it probably swung towards jet ski and guys getting towed in, and that was really pushing the perimeters of big wave surfing. But of late, it swung back to guys paddling and trying to paddle those waves they once thought were unpaddleable. And with these vests on, things a bit safer, and obviously you got skis in the water, so if things go wrong, you can get plucked out or not. But it's really fun to watch.
Are you seeing a lot more people come through to really hit these massive waves? Like, is there a big new flow of younger guys coming through?
Yeah, it's definitely opened up now as that's a real avenue for professional surfing. It's like just big wave surfing, or they call them like free surfers, where you don't have to go and compete. You sort of got the freedom to do what you want, as long as you're sort of hitting those swells, being there on the right day, getting all that footage. You're getting in the cover of magazines or splashed across social media, or your sponsors can use it in all their marketing campaigns or whatnot. That's an avenue for guys to just solely focus on that. And Australia's like always been right up there, with the guys, the Brazilians, Hawaiians, the Americans in chasing big waves, and again, like, it's cool to see it happen on a local scale as well. Like guys like Max McGuigan, who's a local lifeguard here from Maroubra, he's been going phenomenal the last few years, like all around the world chasing big waves, and it's nice to see that guy, I guess, that little tradition that Maroubra's always had continue.
Yeah. Would you say like Maroubra was kind of like at the forefront of bringing people through doing these big waves? Like, do you think Maroubra was sort of like pivotal in how people saw surfing?
Yeah, I think definitely
in this country.
Yeah, in this country for sure. And I think because like Maroubra always had that reputation of like, you went hard or went home, regardless in what environment you're in. You know what I mean? So like, you're in the pub partying, or you're playing on the footy field for back in the day, the Coogee Randwick Wombats. It was all about balls to the walk on attitude, and that definitely was the case when the waves got big. If you paddled out, you're expected to try and take off one, or you're expected to paddle out. If you didn't paddle out, your mates would rip shreds off you, and you have to walk home with your tail between your legs. So, like I said, that testosterone forward environment definitely fed into big wave surfing, and we had a lot of guys out there who were pushing the limits on a local level, and then again across Australia, and then even internationally. I was just really fortunate that I grew up in a time where, like Kobe Abbott especially, he became a superstar from big wave surfing, and we just sort of.
Do you still get in contact with him?
Yeah, still speak. He lives in Bali now, and he's on a holiday in Japan at the moment. But I bumped into Bali last year, and caught up and said g'day, and still keep in contact. And he's just doing his thing over there, still surfing lots, and he's got a son Makua who's turning a young man now, so keeping himself busy. But it was a great era to grow up in as like a big wave surfer, because there was so much happening, and so many guys were pushing the limits. It was good to be part of, and it's still going today, and Maroubra's always been known for guys who like to chase the big waves. So
So let's turn to the UFC. Obviously, at 18 years of age, I think it's 18 years of age, Bruno.
Yes.
Takes you under his wing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well known here in the East, especially with jiu-jitsu. Like, wasn't he the first one? Was he the first one Brazilian?
I remember because he was Paulo Guimarães at Bondi from Roots, and I think there was two others. Marcelo from Manly. I think it was Gracie Barra. Bruno was Gracie Humada or Gracie Sydney. And there was another one, maybe Melbourne. So there was like a handful of Brazilian black belts in Australia when we started. So absolutely in its infancy. And we were just very fortunate that Bruno moved, to this area. He eventually had an academy above us at one point. Alex Pratt as well was right underneath Bruno. He's still in the corner of Robert Whittaker today. And we just took to it, like ducks to water when he came down. And he was teaching down at River Surf Club, and jiu-jitsu was an amazing new martial arts that we knew nothing about. The extent of our fighting ability was just straight boxing basically. And
Street fight.
And we had guys like Ronnie Ridder. These guys we knew about training a little bit, and like Kurt Barham as well, like was a great professional boxer. And but there was like a little bit of kickboxing, but to this grappling concept, and then putting guys to sleep or arm bars, all this. It was funny. Jai Abbott was up the Seals when the Brazilian boys Bruno and Alex had just moved to Maroubra, and Jai was training at the Seals Club, and Alex was there, and Alex had his big cauliflower ears, and Jai just been a guy who just talked to anyone, was like, "Hello, mate." He goes, "What's doing with your ears?" And Bruno Alex in his broken English was trying to explain jiu-jitsu. Before they knew it, they were on the ground wrestling. And Alex was trying to show him. What he was trying to explain, how he got these ears, but Jai was blown away by all these submissions and these, all these grappling techniques. And he came out and go, "Mate, I met this bloody Brazilian bloke up there, these funny ears." And I asked him how he got him. Next thing we know, he was choking me out and giving me arm bars. Mate, that shit's fucking unbelievable, Yeah. So word spread, and next thing we know, like Bruno and Alex are teaching at the surf club, and everyone just flocked to it, because word got out. And of course, that was just at the very early days of MMA. So people were trying to look at different styles of fighting, and the buzz was starting to hit here in Australia. So we're very grateful for the Brazilian boys to move to our little patch of coast and introduce what they have, and not just jiu-jitsu, but we've got an amazing Brazilian community for many reasons, but it's very cool.
And so when you started there when you were 18, how consistent were you with that, with the training? Because you obviously got to be pretty consistent to move up in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, exactly. I really enjoyed it. Like, and so did all of our mates. Like, Jimmy Olsen, he was there every day.
Jimmy's massive on it.
And
he became a black belt.
He's his black belt now. Correct. He helps teach us at the academy that Bruno started. Gracie Alexander and all of my mates, Evan Fawkes. So many of us started. Johnny Gannon. So it was a really competitive bunch. And that's why you wanted to be consistent as well. Because if I had a week off for whatever reason, the boys will learn a new technique, and I come back a week later, I'm getting strangled or put to sleep by this technique I missed out on. And then we started competing too. So Bruno was always very a big believer in competition. Just regardless of the result, you jump on the mat. You compete. You're going to be better for it. So that again fed into that the competitiveness of it, and the idea of staying consistent. So we could compete and help each other get better and go in there and compete as a team. But it was unreal. It was this. When we're all doing really good in tournaments too, so we were very proud of our little academy, and that little camaraderie and brotherhood was strong, and girls were competing too. It was awesome, and that's where it all started. And that's where really the idea of MMA for myself started, because prior to that I had a few maybe like exhibition bouts boxing. Just always loved hitting the pads and sparring a little bit, but with the introduction of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then the idea of MMA and like seeing the sport kind of grow in Australia, I thought, well, that was MMA to me. I can box a little bit. I can do a bit of this jiu-jitsu stuff. Let's give this MMA crack. So that was
So obviously, you would have done jiu-jitsu for a few years. You were still hitting the pads. When did you decide to, I want to jump into this UFC?
I didn't really ever decide that I wanted to jump definitely on the UFC. Like there wasn't even a weight class away from me, and there wasn't even like the road to get to the UFC was a foreign concept. And even taking it serious as a profession was unrealistic at that time. I just basically, like I always joke about it, like I suffer from small man syndrome, and I want to show off to my mates. My mates always know that I'm easy to G up, and I go, "You won't do this, Rich. You won't do that. Whether it's a nudie run or whatever it is." And it was just that small man syndrome kick in. With the idea of, would you compete in MMA? And there's a few local promotions starting off. I'll compete, not thinking it through, and then an opportunity to fight came up. Well, Bruno said, okay, well then in a couple of weeks, you can make 61 kilos. They got an opponent for you. And I was like, oh, fuck. what have I said? What have I got myself
Wow.
into? You know, and that was very much the way I kind of got involved in big wave surfing too. You
Yeah.
know, maybe from a place of insecurity or something, always trying to show off or speak before I thought things through. You know, and but once I did, especially in surfing, I know I did enjoy it, and I enjoy getting pushed out of my comfort zone. But that was the case in mixed martial arts. I just always was trying to impress my mates, always want to be a bit of a show off, and the opportunity came up to try MMA. I said I would try it, and then didn't really think anything would come of it. To be honest, you know, I mean, there was so many like little shows, or there was a real opportunity there. But once I threw my hand up and puffed my chest out, and thought I was a little tough guy, I thought I had to go through with it. So I was surrounded by such great teammates as well, with Alex Pratt. Ian Schaefer was probably one of the best MMA guys in Australia at the time. He was fighting in Japan. So I thought if I was to give it a nudge, I'm surrounded by the best, It gave me confidence to go, okay, let's go ahead with it. And that's early 20s. I had my first fight.
How old are you now?
Turned 40 last year.
Okay. So 20 years ago.
Yeah.
2004, sort of when you started to...
Yeah. But the training was at that stage it was still just boxing and jiu-jitsu, and I was still getting on the piss like a 20-year-old and burning the wick at both ends, thinking I was invincible. Nothing I did on the weekends had consequence. I was just just that typical 20-year-old bloke. And then as things went on, I had a couple of setbacks and whatnot, but then as I wanted to take mixed martial arts more serious, then I had to involve try the complete package of mixed martial arts, some more wrestling, some kickboxing, some traditional like karate techniques and whatnot. But that wasn't until a few years down the track, once I'd made couple of mistakes and some fuck ups, and had to like realign or reassess what I wanted to do in my life, really. Yeah.
So, because the Ultimate Fighter was kind of the catalyst for you, right, to go to that next.
Yeah, well, that was the I'd been trying to get into the UFC leading up to that, with my management who were in the States, and I was doing really well here in Oz. I'd won a few titles, and my record was good, but it was such a hard door to get through, just to get that start and that UFC contract, and that's why when we got word that the UFC were bringing the Ultimate Fighter house to Australia, and they were doing it, they're calling it the Smashers, because it's Australia versus UK. That could be potentially my road to get that UFC contract. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, like the weight classes were welterweight and lightweight. At the time, I was fighting mostly as a bantamweight and bouncing up to fight at featherweight to stay active. But the opportunity was too good to miss up. So I threw my hat in the ring and had a bit of luck. Got a start in the house. It was a great experience. I didn't quite get the results I was after, but the experience I took from it, and at least sort of made myself known to the UFC, and then it wasn't long after that I did get that contract, back down a lot of weight class.
Obviously, like we just spoke about it just then, but you had this mindset, the small man syndrome. So I believe like most people have to feel like they're the underdog, that they were never meant to make it.
Yep.
And that's what pushes them, that mindset.
Serves
where
motivation,
like for example, small man syndrome. People don't believe in me. I'm going to show you motherfuckers. Would you say that was you?
Yeah.
Like not in a bad way. Not in a bad way,
like,
but in a way like, fuck, I need that. If I'm to do well, I need people to challenge me like that.
Yeah, to prove
like,
you're good enough.
I'm like that.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm kind of the underdog where I grew up. I'm not supposed to make it, but I'm just going to show you, whoever it is. And it's not against anyone.
Yeah, in particular,
it's probably
but it's just like...
not against anyone.
It's just...
But it's actually what motivates me the most.
Yeah.
Like, if someone gives me a pat on the back, I feel like, fuck, man, I'm going to relax. Don't do that.
Yeah. And it's also like... And then if you see others too get inspired by it, that's also serves that motivation as well. But for me, it was, just... It was unlikely, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I was this little surfy kid from Maroubra, because at the time I was more known for my surfing. I started making a little bit of a profile, getting in the surf industry and the media for chasing these waves, like we spoke about earlier, and getting some exposure. So at the start, when promotions were taking me on, and guys were signing up to fight me, I knew they were just thinking, this is like a little gimmick, you know what I mean? This little surfy bloke's just trying this MMA stuff. He's not a fair dinkum fighter, you know what I mean? I'll walk for this bloke. but that gave me motivation because of the training partners I was training with, my coaches, Matty Garner and Owen Garner, got like my striking coaches. Man, they were the hardest motherfuckers that I'd ever sparred against. And then when it comes to like Ian Schaefer and Alex Pratt and all those guys I was grappling with, like I was getting hammered every day, and I was like, there's no way someone in my weight class, the whole sport was in its infancy, so no one's going to come more like with a lot more experience than me. Like someone had a few fights under their belt, but no one's like light years ahead of me. So I just felt like if I'm doing rounds with these guys, and I always pride myself in pushing myself in training. I train hard. I'd even though at that time I was still drinking piss on the weekend and trying to fit it all in as a 20-year-old, I was confident stepping into that. I wouldn't say I was confident the first time, but the confidence grew, knowing as my training improved that and that chip on the shoulder, that I'm not just this little surfy gimmick trying to, I don't know, get some attention in MMA. Like I was fair dinkum by it, and it does. It serves as motivation, and I always preferred to be the underdog. When I was my career sort of progressed, and I was fighting with guys with more experience. I like the pressure and expectation to win. I did not enjoy. I preferred it the other way around. Like less pressure, just go out there, give it your best. You know what I mean? And once the opportunity got great and the pressure started me out, that's where I stumbled most, was my mental approach to fighting. You know what I mean? Dealing with that pressure, the expectations of yourself, the expectations of others.
The people from River, I remember. Yeah, they were huge supporters of yours, especially when you're jumping in the ring. Yeah, the guys that you've been close with. Yeah, and so it's like, fuck, I don't want to disappoint them going into the ring. Yeah, and especially like you guys down at Maroubra, like the Bra Boys, is such a close knit family. Yeah, so you feel like, fuck, these guys, they're my brothers, right?
Absolutely, yeah. No, and you'd come out of a loss and you'd be apologising to them, and they're like, "What are you fucking talking about, mate? We're fucking proud as punches here. Like that was a fucking amazing fight. Yeah, you didn't get the win, but." You do. You feel like you got to. I was apologising to my family, my coaches. You just feel like, but in saying that, I was very grateful for the support too. We had some great nights here, and that also helped push me and push my career too, because of the crowd and the attention that I guess followed my fights. Promoters want to be a part of that as well, and I was getting a little bit of like a crossover, from the fight world to the surf world, and Kelly Slater come to a few of my fights and stuff. So that was I was very grateful for that, because it helped me as an athlete, where the sport was in its infancy, to get a little leg up, and get bigger and better opportunities. So, but with that, like I said, too, came added pressure, and the opportunities got bigger, and the fights definitely got tougher.
And I guess is that the hardest part to deal with when you're jumping into the UFC, that pressure of, fuck man, these guys have been supporters of mine all my life. I've done all the training, but then that pressure of going to that next level, that's just something completely different.
Yeah, the UFC journey did feel different, and because you're fighting guys, your experience and your journey to get there, so the guy that's standing across the octagon, the sacrifices, the work, how much he's done to get there as well. So he's no slouch, and I felt personally, okay, now's the time to really show your best, you know what I mean? But in doing that, I also was putting more pressure on myself, I definitely felt the calmer I went into fights and more relaxed and just not feeling the pressure or not thinking about the pressure. I always fought my best, but when I got under the big lights of UFC, I fell in the trap of like wanting to perform my best now. This is what I've got to do my best, I mean? No mistakes. And that coupled with the factors which is like no excuse for my performance, but the weight class I was fighting at was just it came at a bigger cost than I imagined getting down there, and then
how much did you have to lose? What did you have to lose?
So I've always walked around like sort of 68 kilos, between 60, 67 and 69. So making like bantamweight, which is 62 kilos, was a breeze. I just sort of tinker with watch my diet for like 10 days out from the fight, do a little bit of sweat before it, because you're always waiting 24 hours before the fight, so you can have a good sweat before you jump on the scales, because you put it all back on before you fight. Yeah, like I said, featherweight, I didn't cut any weight, and at lightweight, I was walking in there with kilos to spare. But fighting out at 57 kilos, and I don't have a lot of excess weight to get rid of. It was a challenge, you know what I mean? I had to get nutritionists on board, and going through that Ultimate Fighter house experience, I got friendly with Dean Amasinga, who was the nutritionist for the UK side, and he was like, mate, like you get it at flyweight, and he was like, man, I know the UFC is looking for flyweights, mate. You should like tell them that you're available to fight at flyweight, which is like, kind of planted the seed, and eventually that's how I got the start. And he got on board when I got the contract to help me get down a weight, but it was just so. It just required so much of my energy, you know what I mean? Like, everything I ate, like 5 small meals a day. Everything was like getting on the scales every day, checking my weight. And it's just the stress that came with it was like it took the joy out of the fight prep. You know, I always loved fight preparation and the lead up to it. There was anxiety, there was fear, and there's all that as well. But with the added pressure of like having to make weight, it just it just zapped some of the joy out of it. And then I was speaking to doctors too, because I was getting funny bloods and I was having like weird. I guess extreme yo-yo dieting was what I was doing. You know, 'cause you might do that a couple of times a year. And my hormones were going all over. So my cortisol was real high, my testosterone was real low, all that stuff. So often I'd get into a fight just going, I can't wait for this to be over. You know what I mean? Like not. You know, normally you're biting at the bit to try and get in there and get your hands on your opponent, but sometimes it's like, fuck, just get this done with, you know? And just, I let opportunities slip because I just didn't go into the fight the right headspace. But yeah, the weight cutting is a huge part of the sport, and for me, experiencing like either end of the spectrum, I know everyone's got their preferred, you know, their point, which is they're going to perform best at, and I don't regret going down flyweight at all. I enjoy the experience, but that was mentally tough as well, you know, I was dropping like 5.5 kilos a night before the fight, you know, and then jumping on the scale and then trying to put that back on before you're walking, like being at your physical like lowest, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't squash a fly, jumping on the scales, you know, and like 20 hours later you're supposed to go and then perform at your physical peak was it's a pretty crazy concept, you know.
It's already a crazy sport. Like, I mean, not a crazy sport, a hard sport.
Yeah.
It's great to watch. Like the marketing behind the UFC is incredible.
Yeah.
You're on Fox Sports.
Yep.
And what was that experience like? You know, like knowing what Dana White's like, knowing, you know, what the UFC is like, something that you've been passionate about apart from obviously surfing. What was that experience at Fox like, and where was your mind sort of channeling towards there of where you wanted to take your career? Because obviously that was something pretty big in your life as well.
I was stoked with the opportunity from Fox Sports when they came up with the UFC Fight Week panel. I had a pretty good relationship with the guys at Fox Sports off the back of Fuel TV, which is a channel there, which is we had a show called The Crew that was on Fuel TV, and it was an extreme sport kind of channel. So when they wanted to put together a fight panel for the UFC, they reached out, and I was over the moon. It was something that, I'm really passionate about the sport because I'm a big believer in how good martial arts are for any human, kids especially, like the youth, whether it be karate, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, any form of martial arts, how beneficial it is for the individual, for the community, you know, for everything. So to be a representative of that here in Australia, when I feel like it, it was just starting to, people at that time were just starting to get out of the concept, it's bare knuckle fighting, it's human cockfighting, it's barbaric, you know, like when MMA first started in Australia, when I first fighting, you know, locally, it was frowned upon. Like people, the mainstream media, you know, the Telegraph or whatever, you say, you know, I do cage fighting because no one knew it as mixed martial arts. That bare knuckle, but it was like you couldn't get sponsors on board. You know what I mean? No one associated themselves with it. But when I was just starting to work with Fox Sports and UFC Fight Week, was getting a weekly segment. Yeah, the mentality, the perception was starting to change, which is great, and I was very honoured to be a part of that and try to change people's idea about the sport. And also we for like a small nation, you know, per capita, we were doing phenomenally well, you know, in the UFC, and that was unreal. I was still fighting at the time, so I was a little bit torn, like trying to separate the two, you know, like focusing on to try and compete and perform, and also trying to do my best, you know, research and get my head in that host space as well. But I've really enjoyed it, and that was a great opportunity, and I'm still stoked to go in and work with Fox every now and then when they they got a spot on the panel, and it's amazing to see where the sport has led, you know, from its infancy, like I said, from people not even knowing how to describe the sport or label it, you know, coming up with all these crazy ideas of what it is. Now we've got world champions, such good ambassadors like, you know, Rod Whittaker, Alex Volkanovski, great humans, you know, articulate, like the complete other end of the spectrum of what you think a bare-knuckled cage fighter human cockfighting person would be. You know what I mean? They're so well spoken and such great ambassadors. So it's been crazy to see the evolution of the sport. You know, and I'm stoked to be a part of that, and with the help from Fox Sports and guys like Rob Tasker who put the show together, and Adam, and it's been really fun.
If you look at obviously the UFC, MMA, do the New Zealanders and the Aussies kind of stick together like they're one against sort of like the Americans and the people abroad? Because you kind of see that, right? Like it's like us versus them mentality. So there's like a camaraderie between those two countries. Like even with Adesanya, with how he is with the Aussie guys.
Definitely, I think we've always there's always a little bit of camaraderie, but I think the bond has gotten greater.
Yeah.
Especially over the last few years with Adesanya and Volkanovski and they're crossing over at camps. You know, so a lot of fighters go and fight at City Kickboxing in Auckland under Eugene, who's Adesanya's head coach, and vice versa. They'll come over here and help out with Volkanovski's camp. You know, so that it's basically one team.
Yeah,
they're just crossing the ditch and training together. Is like it's no big deal. It's like it's going to the Gold Coast or something, and it would definitely you definitely feel like there's a lot of camaraderie. You know, like a lot. Which is it's great to see because they've got a very proud and strong, rich combat sports history. You know, with guys like Mark Khan and some boxers and kickboxing. So they're a very proud nation in that respect, and likewise we are as well. So it's great to support each other. You know, from down this little corner of the globe.
Yeah. Was it like that when you were in the UFC? Not so much.
I fought over in Auckland, and I remember when I was doing the local scene, Dan Hooker, who's now he's a fan favorite at the UFC, still fighting the UFC, would cross over, like we'd fight on the same shows, and that was just when I started to get an idea that they've got a bit of a thing happening over there to producing good fighters, you know, because a lot of the promotions over here were bringing Kiwi fighters across, so it wasn't nothing on the scale it is now, but you got a sense like the Kiwis, are really. The sport's really taken off over there too, and they're giving it a good crack, and it was good to see. I guess the transition to like I said, they've always had a great combat sports history, and for them to take on the MMA side of things as well, and for it to see it boom over there and produce the fighters they have, it's only helped the Aussies as well, and vice versa. You know, we just bounce off each other.
This weekend, I think it's this weekend, Volkanovski's fighting, right?
Correct, yeah.
So that's a huge fight. Obviously, he's coming off a loss against...
Islam Makhachev,
that's right.
Yeah, his first... I mean, the first fight with Islam
they're
was
saying
so
he's going to
close.
win. They're saying he's
I don't know, this Spanish fella, he's tough. Like, anyone to find themselves in the position to fight Alex is tough. He's going to be a hard, dangerous fight. And this guy has got a really good string of knockouts. He hits hard. He's beaten some really... good caliber guys, not the caliber that Volkanovski has beaten, but he's no slouch, that's for sure. So Volks is one of those guys who, whenever you think he's in danger, he kind of finds a way to just surprise you. You know, he's got great fight IQ, surrounded by a great team from down there in Windag with Joe and Eugene from City Kickboxing in Auckland. They come up with a really good game plan. So it's gonna be an interesting fight, but nothing's guaranteed in the sport. That's what makes it so exciting.
No one's got a zero next to their name, except for a couple, obviously. You know, John Jones and Khabib.
Khabib, yeah.
Like it's so hard to have a zero. in your name.
It is. I mean, extremely hard. I mean, because there's so many factors that
so many things
can cause
go wrong.
the fight to swing in any which way. You know, with all the components of mixed martial arts, where you might have a little mistake in your wrestling, or mistake in your boxing or your kickboxing, or just you might have relaxed a little bit on the ground and you get caught in a submission. But the good thing about not having a zero next to your name, it doesn't come with the same impact like it would in boxing or kickboxing. You know, a couple losses, in boxing or kickboxing can really harm a fighter's career and potential to keep fighting at big opportunities. But in mixed martial arts, some of the champions have 10 losses to their name, and sometimes it's also the quality of that loss. It might be a poor decision, or it might just be a fight of the night loss. But your stocks still go up, even though it was a loss. Your stocks still go up, so it's good because you don't see guys trying to pad or protect their records as much. In MMA. So this is going to be a great fight on the weekend. Good card too. Yeah. Rob Whittaker's fighting too. He's fighting the big Brazilian Paulo Costa. So
okay, that's going to be a big fight.
Yeah,
actually. I mean that's a big fight for both of them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, both coming off losses.
Losses, yeah.
Both Alex and Rob coming off losses. So, you know, nobody wants to get 2 losses back to back. Volkanovski obviously still got his title, but Rob has always been in that title contention in the middleweight division.
That's a tough division, really. Like,
very
there's
tough.
a lot of great fighters.
We were speaking about Strickland recently. You know?
Do you think he had that fight?
I thought he beat
I thought he did too.
I thought it came down that last round. I thought it was 2 apiece,
so.
and I just thought he just edged
see
out
his
the last
face?
round. Yeah.
Mate, fuck.
Yeah.
To win a fight and have that face.
Yeah, they were both beat up, but yeah, Duplessis was more banged up for sure. And I just thought he edged out that 5th round, and I thought the winner of that 5th round should take home the should take home the title. But you know, it wasn't a robbery. It wasn't like it was that's how I read it. But it's interesting too because Adesanya, who's still there now, you know, and that the fight with Duplessis, like, you know, it's already got a history. I think Strickland should maybe even get a rematch because it's so close, and I think he's a phenomenal fighter, and opens the door too for Rob again if he gets a win over Costa. He's right back in the mix as well now because. To try and make another fight with Adesanya might be hard if Adesanya's like the title, but now the title is changing hands. You know, Rob can get back in there and make a run for that title as well. So very interesting times in that middleweight division.
Well, I was listening to Dana White the other day. He said UFC 300. He said there's a lot of surprises. Do you think Adesanya's going to fight at UFC 300?
Yeah, I don't know. But then I guess the question is who? I mean, it would have to be Duplessis.
But is he going to be ready, Duplessis, with the way he was banged up?
So unless
he fights Strickland again.
Yeah.
You reckon they'd do that?
Well, they're both coming off losses, really, aren't they? So Strickland's come off a loss to Duplessis. Adesanya's come off a Strickland. It's hard to build up a fight on a scale of like, you know, UFC 300. They're normally like huge, 2 guys in their prime, maybe both undefeated, titles on the line, you know. Comes with all the marbles kind of fights. So it'd be interesting to see who they match up with Adesanya because I think there's only a few names they could, unless he leaves the division and goes up to light heavyweight, you know, and tries his run there again. But I guess we want to know what's going on with Conor too. Conor and Michael Chandler. I know a date's been set for that. He still brings that star power to any card.
Let me ask you a question: is this Conor's last chance? If he loses, is that it?
Look, I definitely think so. I mean, I wouldn't say last chance is like he'll never get a start again, but he hasn't been his best in the last few years. Obviously, I think in the lead up to that Khabib fight, I thought he wasn't the Conor that we all grew to love. You know, the articulate, witty, like smart guy in those press conferences. You know, I think he was slipping a little bit. He came out after that fight and said he was drinking through his fight camp and whatnot. But you know, I think the whole Conor brand image is really built off his performance inside the cage. You know? And obviously he's focused on a lot on other areas at the moment, but that I really do feel that all hinges on how he performs in the octagon.
That's sort of the foundation.
It's the foundation, yeah. And obviously come off the Mayweather thing, you know, I think that was a good effort. It was obviously got a lot of attention, and then he came in and fought Khabib. I just thought he was off in the lead up to that. You know, I thought his sense of humor was off. The trash talk and the way he was approaching that fight. And then he got beat by Khabib, and then since then he's just, you know, pretty much a string of losses. The exception being Cerrone. He beat Cerrone, who I guess was on the tail end of his career anyway. It wasn't the best Cerrone that we've seen. Couple of losses to Poirier. He's got to get in there and make a statement for sure, you know, because that record suggesting that if you don't get the win over Michael Chandler, your opponent's names are going to be like, you know, you'll start to be the guy the gatekeeper of the division. You know, journeymen will start trying to, or up and comers like will be thrown at you, and you're no longer in that title contention. You're just kind of like, the once was with a big name, and you know, up and comers. We're looking to use your name as a way to leapfrog their career and stuff. So I think he's definitely got to get the win here. Good performance, and then we'll see. But he's also, how much fire's in the belly's left? I don't know. The injury too, because last time he fought, he broke his leg. And they're bad injuries. So not only physically, but the mental scar that will leave too. You know, wanting to throw those kicks or fight your natural game, knowing what happened last time. You know, so it's interesting. So that could be a part of the 300. I don't know, because he still has that star power. And that draw that can make any card huge. You know. Is
it more the money for him, or is it, when you go in the ring, the adrenaline, the buzz, the crowd. Is that something that the fighters want? Is that what they thrive off? Was that something?
Well, I definitely noticed that post fighting, like my career, I missed that. You know,
You missed
I
that,
missed
yeah.
that, like the ego, you know, of getting the adulation, of getting that you know, the roar of the crowd, and you know, the lead up to the fight, and yeah, you do miss that, you know. But you also, I think in Connor's case, he was always so obsessed of like bettering himself as a mixed martial artist. You know, his approach to training, he came up with some really different concepts.
That's right.
His movement. So I really think he wanted to be the best fighter in the world. That was a driving factor, you know. And of course, using that as motivation, it got him to the heights of the sport. You know, he won the titles. You know, of course, the colourful character that Connor is, everything else came with it too. You know what I mean? All the money and the sponsors, and you know, he became one of the most famous athletes in the world. Now, he's after getting the titles and all the money you can spend. What's the driving factor now? You know what I mean? Is he because he's still relatively in his prime? You know, he's still young enough to really have a few, you know, years at chasing titles under his belt. If you know, if that motivation's there, so that's. I think too, his ego. He wants to be at the top still, so that can serve you in a positive way too, especially in the world of fighting. Ego is important. You know, you got to be, all about you and pushing yourself and trying to achieve those goals you set. So, I think that's maybe why he's taking his time in his return too, and maybe why we don't have a date set for this fight, because he wants to make sure that the body's, you know, primo, up, you know, his mental approach, he's everything. He doesn't rush anything because he probably knows the implications and the importance of this next fight. You know, how it will ripple effect into everything else in his life and where his career will be at, given the result of how it all pans out. You know, I think if he gets a win, they'll start throwing his name out again for title shots and, you know, big fights. So interesting, yeah.
Dana White, you can see why you were on Fox Sports. You just understand the game really well. Like, you're just talking, you're very articulate in the way you explain it all. You just know exactly where they are in their career and what's happening behind the scenes. But what's Dana White like? Like, obviously, you've probably met him. We were just talking before off camera. He said he's like a school principal. What I love a lot about Dana is, like, it seems like it's like almost a river mentality. We don't give a fuck, man.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? Like, that's the mentality, and it goes to show that more people take more chances when they go like, well, mate, I don't give a fuck. This is what we're doing. We're going to put the best spectacle out there, and we're going to give 100%.
And that was really brought to the front, I guess, through the COVID, a few years where they were like, well, we'll work this out, you know, and they came up with Fight Island over in the Arab Emirates, and like, I'm not going to just adhere to what the general public's saying, all the other sports are doing, or, you know, what governments are telling us we can and can't do. Like, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to make it work. And he's always been known for that, and he is. He's like, he has that presence, you know. I described him earlier, like, when you're in front of him, you feel like you're a kid in front of the principal, you know. He doesn't beat around the bush. He definitely he gets pretty colourful, but his message is always loud and clear, you know, what he expects from you and how he wants to do things. And I think that's why, the success of the UFC has been what it's been, because it's also one captain steering the ship. Obviously, there's obviously a lot of people around that, but he cuts the chase. He makes fights happen. You know, in boxing, you know, you can see fights that everyone's hanging out to see for 5 years. You know, like, when's this, like the Pacquiao, Mayweather, all these fights that you want to see the fighters go at it in their prime, and because of the politics involved and whatnot, the different bodies, sanction, management, all getting, then it happens 5 years too late. You know, one of the guys isn't there. You know, he's no longer in their prime anymore, or whatever it is. You know, they never seem to happen. You know, where the UFC just make those fights happen, and, you know, in my experience with them, like, you know, I didn't pick and choose opponents. It was like they just match you up with the fight they want to see, and, you know, because once you progress and you start to get, you know, a profile and start to march your way up the rankings and have a bit of pull in the UFC, you know, you can sort of structure your opponents a little bit better. But they really try to make the most exciting fights they can from you know, the first fight of the night all the way through the last fight. And they do a really good job at that. And again, the package, the promotion package that comes with it, you know, investing time into their fighters. And because I know a lot of people friends of mine who don't really particularly like the sport, but they get invested in the athlete. You know what I mean? And Connor's a great example of that. He brought so many new eyes to the sport that prior to that weren't MMA or UFC viewers or enthusiasts. They just heard about this Conor McGregor and they saw a little snippet of him talking or a highlight reel of his knockouts or whatnot. And the way that was promoted, that just brought all these new eyes to it. And the UFC do that with a lot of their fighters now. They try to push it out from all around the globe. It's probably started out very much Brazil and America in terms of the stock of fighters. Now you're seeing champions and fighters from all around the world. Kazakhstan just feels like they've got an army of fighters over there, just we're ready to take over. But then through all the Asia region now, you get amazing MMA fighters, and of course all through Europe. With a Czech fighter who was a light heavyweight champion recently. So it's just gone global, and that's been a great job of Dana White and the UFC just marketing it to individual markets around the world and pushing it and getting people invested in the fighters.
And then you've got someone like Sean Strickland. Yeah. Where there's no leash. Yeah. I mean, that press conference when he went after that Canadian reporter. Yeah, right. That was funny. Yeah.
You're the problem.
He didn't say it's people like you guys, you are the problem. Yeah. It's you. Yeah. And it's funny when, the reporter went to Dana White and said, what kind of, like, I don't know if it was exactly, I'm going to paraphrase this, you got a leash on your fighters. He said, what do you mean leash? There's no leash on any of them. Yeah. And what he said, I think, was correct. Like, there's certain things we talked about you shouldn't talk about. Yeah. But people then have to face up to the consequences. Yeah. But, in Sean Strickland's case, he nails it almost every single time.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Sean Strickland. I like the way his fight style. I don't agree with everything he says, but whatever he may say, or he's controversial, or he'll cop flack for, he can articulately explain why he said that. It's not just a headline grab or like a shock jock kind of like blurting out a statement or calling someone something just for that that shock factor. And then, well, why would you say that? And then he doesn't go silent. He goes, well, I said because of this. In society, this is what people blah, blah. Like, he's a really well thought out response to it all. So then you understand him. And a lot of it, I get it. He doesn't want to be put up on a pedestal. He doesn't want to, like, flash around a lifestyle that's like gloating, like, which with social media these days, that's what everyone does. Make their life look amazing. And average punters, just are striving to get this unachievable lifestyle, which isn't really real anyway, because it's and he cuts through all that shit. He goes, mate, I'm just a bloke who's fucking fighting like any other bloke. He said, a dad driving his kids to school pulled over and said, mate, I love you, Sean Strickland, I love what you're doing. He's like, me? Look what you're doing. You're driving your family to school. You're raising kids. Because I got no kids. Like, what you're doing in life is way more important than me. You know what I mean? Like, it's refreshing to have people like that, champions like that, where, I guess Conor McGregor's on the other end of the spectrum, where he's all about, the money he makes and the bling and the notoriety and the status and all that, which is fine too, but like, it's nice to have a little counterbalance to that. And just say, like, fuck, it's just because I feel too much in that one way. People just get down. It doesn't help society, you know what I mean? It doesn't help your community. Just, always want to chase the Joneses and achieve these bright, sparkly lights and live beyond their means and that kind of stuff, That doesn't bring happiness, just being comfortable in your own skin and being a little humble and just doing your best and chasing your own dreams, all that kind of stuff. I think it has a way better ripple effect. Yeah.
I was watching that interview with Theo Von, where he broke down because of his childhood. He didn't mean it, but then Theo Von was kind of the same. Yeah. And you could see this other side, you could see the pain. He
started off almost jokingly talking about his childhood, and then he just choked up. Man. Yeah.
Like, I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, and to be vulnerable, and to do that, obviously on a platform that's going to go viral, it's huge. That's so important. So important for I think for all to be open and vulnerable, but especially people who are in the spotlight and people look up to open up about your troubles, where depression, childhood, your struggles, your adversities, how you dealt with it, and to know that it's absolutely normal that we all go through it all. It should be more spoken about. There should be more people opening up, and like Sean's got a very colourful childhood and background. I've only listened to bits and pieces of it, but he jokes about it that it's what made him the arsehole he is today. He also describes himself just as an arsehole, that's just an example of like, turning a diversity into a positive and using it for fuel, but also bringing attention to these other people going through that as well. So if you are going through that, there are ways out or people to speak to, or it's not always the end doom and gloom. So that's why I like him, because I think he's authentic. Sean, I think he there's a lot of guys in all, I think, sports, the fight combat sport arena for sure, that are very unauthentic and just say things and put on a persona just to be perceived a certain way, or but it's nice to someone just come out warts and all, and this is who I am, and also it complements his fight style, because he'll fight anyone. He's tough as nails, and then he gets beat. He goes, he got beat by the Brazilian Pereira. He just said, mate, that guy's a monster. He fucking hits like a truck. He knocked me out. What can I say? Like, no excuses, no nothing. Just like, so you got to admire him for that.
And he almost says, like, we're gonna put on a bloodbath for you guys. Yeah, we're doing this for you guys. Yeah,
exactly.
And he's putting everything on his sleeve there and pushing himself to the absolute. And I think that's probably what people resonate with the most. And I think, you coming from Maroubra, that's the kind of culture it is there.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't give a fuck, man. Just man up, be yourself. Don't try and act like something you're not.
Yeah, well, I don't see it as being like sustainable too. Pretty much was saying, like, whether it be just down your local beach in your local community, at a workplace, as a professional athlete, it's you can't maintain that. The crack's going to show, your true colours going to show through, and then people are going to be either disappointed or angry or whatever. It's like, I think you're always just best off just being yourself, for the longevity of yourself in any area of life. Like, you can't just keep wearing that mask, you know what I mean? Like, it's
I was with Fidel on the weekend, Fidel?
Yeah, big fit.
Went and trained at his gym in the Gold Coast, and I was there on I got there Thursday. I sent him, he goes, 9:30 tomorrow morning. Yeah, fuck, this cunt's going to come after me.
Yeah.
I got through the workout. We had a mad laugh. I said, Fidel, if I didn't turn up, what would happen?
Yeah.
Because, mate, I would have ridiculed you all over social media that you didn't turn up. But I interviewed him afterwards. And I said, so he goes, Mets, that guy's a world champion. This guy's this. And I'm training with all of these guys.
Yeah.
And I just went in there, I just said, fuck, I'm just going to have a workout. I just want to get through this workout.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise the calibre of people I was training with.
Yeah.
But I like even for me, like, it's his gym. I want to get through the workout. I don't want to act like I'm anyone.
Yeah.
So I don't get picked on. But I got through the workout. Anyway, I was having a good chat to him afterwards. And what I like about Fidel, it's the same as this area goes. I don't give a fuck how much money you got, what you fucking do. It doesn't bother me. It's good. When you come to the gym and you train, and then, we all talk and, we've got that camaraderie. That's all I give a fuck about.
Yeah.
And I think, in today's society, at some points you lose that, and then you see the guys like Sean Strickland, the Fidels, that bring hey, let's just be real, fuckers. Who the fuck, who gives a fuck what you got? This is what we do. We enjoy it, and there's no labels here.
I think
you are who you are.
Exactly, and I think that combat sports or martial arts is so great for that, because there is no hiding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is no.
Your true colours are going to come through in the ring or on the mats. You can walk in with your chest puffed out, thinking, you're a tough guy, get on the mats, you get strangled by a 40-kilo hairdresser, you're waking up to the bright lights. Like, it's that's very humbling,
Yeah.
Same in the ring, So, I think that's, again, why martial arts is so good for anyone, walk of life. It has so many positives, but also the humility it brings, It's a great teacher in that. And the more you surround yourself in that environment, you want to take that mentality everywhere, your workplace, wherever it is. Like, just don't treat anyone by, their bank balance or their skin color or whatever, whatever it may be. It's just like, just your experience with them, how they are with you, how you interact. And in your experience, just take it, as that, not with preconceived ideas or, with this person is because of this and that. That's why I think, fighting's a great,
equalizer.
I mentioned in the surf of you find things out about yourself, in moments where there's no one to rely on, and there's, it's very much the same, in fighting, in the ring, octagon, even just in training, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's great way to be humbled, and it keeps yourself honest, and who reminds yourself who you really are. You know what I mean? You can't keep up that act or that persona. So I think it's really important for anyone. I think the positives that come out of walking in any gym, you know, even just to train, whether it be martial arts or not, but just surrounding yourself by those people and physically getting that workout, how good it is for your clarity of mind. It's fantastic.
Mate, it's been a great conversation. Thanks for coming again. What are you doing now? Where can people find you? You're going to be back on Fox. Are you doing anything with any fighters?
I'm not, mate. I train at Gracie Gracie Botany. Yeah. So Gracie has got a lot of sort of academies now. My good friend Craig Roberts, Sav, he, a couple of years ago, opened up Gracie Botany. And I popped in to show support and started rolling around a bit, started training a little bit, and an opportunity to start teaching there just in the no-gi popped up, which I sort of reluctantly took. I'm not as confident as an instructor, as I am a practitioner. But I've been really enjoying training there every Monday night. So I teach the no-gi class. So that's been really fun. So it's got me back in a good routine of training jiu-jitsu. I started competing in jiu-jitsu again last year just to scratch that, competition itch and that. So that's been really fun. But apart from that, I'm a tradie, lay carpet, Monday to Friday. I'm on the lifeguards down here at Randwick Council, and I got a beautiful young daughter, Grace, who turned 7 yesterday. So happy birthday, Grace!
Wow.
And I'm expecting another bub in about 3 weeks with my beautiful partner Lily. So a bit on the plate, but I like to try as much as I can, keep things simple, and just get in the ocean as much as I can, train, surround yourself by good people, and just take it easy. Sort of. I've got new appreciation for those things.
You're always going to be active. Like, it sounds like you love being active, giving back, love the community.
Well, and I spoke to Ian Schaefer too. They're thinking about putting on a show, a fight card on locally. So I'd like to be involved in that.
He's such a good guy.
What he does.
I always
have
a laugh with him, man. He's like, even when he feeds the kids down at the homeless down at
the street buffet.
And
again, man, I felt for the area at Lexington, at Lexo, where Fidel had the gym. When Fidel was saying he's going to leave, and I was like, because it brought so much to the community down there. But just it just worked out. Schaefer was able to take over the gym and bring his street buffet to the local area. And now he's trying to put on fight cards and get some kids an opportunity to fight. So, I love being part of the fight community here locally. And, again, I was just getting in the ocean, spending time with my family, staying fit. I did a really good session this morning, every Wednesday morning at the stairs here at Coogee.
Yeah, wow.
I met a bunch of blokes through COVID who were looking for places to train. They're such a mixed bag of guys. They're from Erskineville and Marrickville, a bunch of dads who I met through a mate, Vic, and again, just another group of friends who I just really appreciate, and enjoy spending time. I hate the stairs; they always suck. But it's just good there, giving a good bunch of blokes having a laugh and a train. So it's good. And again, we all know that it helps with the mental health too. I know with a few challenges thrown in the last couple of years, I realise the importance of keeping a bit of a regular physical regime routine as well, just to keep you a bit clearer up top, and it's good. So that's me, mate, just cruising.
Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy. It's hard for you to come on, and I really respect you and everything that you've been able to do, both in the surf, the fight game, the community. Every time I see you, you've always been nice to me, so I really, really do appreciate it, brother.
Back at you,
Thanks,
man.
brother.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.